Welcome, curious minds, to a world of knowledge and discovery. We're thrilled to present to you our video dedicated to Mose. Enjoy! Mose is a project intended to protect the city of Venice, Italy, and the Venetian Lagoon from flooding. The project is an integrated system consisting of rows of mobile gates installed on the seafloor at the Lido, Malamocco, and Chioggia inlets that can be raised to temporarily seal off the Venetian Lagoon from the Adriatic Sea during alta high tides. Together with other measures such as coastal reinforcement, elevating of quaysides, and paving and improvement of the lagoon, Mose is designed to protect Venice and the lagoon from tides of alta. As of 2023, the floodgates are raised for tides forecast to be more than 1.3 m. The Consorzio Venezia Nuova is responsible for the work on behalf of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport Venice Water Authority. Construction began simultaneously in 2003. On 10 July 2020, the first full test was successfully completed, and after multiple delays, cost overruns, and scandals resulted in the project missing both its 2018 completion deadline, originally a 2011 deadline, and its 2021 deadline, and is now to be finished in 2025. On 3 October 2020, the Mose was activated for the first time in the occurrence of a high tide event, preventing some of the low-lying parts of the city, in particular Piazza San Marco, from being flooded. In 2020, the experts who had conceived a set of 3 floodgates separating the Adriatic Sea from Venice estimated that each year they would have to raise the floodgates 5 times. Within 2 years after the inaugural raising of the floodgates, Mose was activated 49 times. Let's now zoom in on origin of the name and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. Before the acronym was used to describe the entire flood protection system, Mose referred to the scale prototype of a gate that had been tested between 1988 and 1992 at the Lido Inlet. The name also holds a secondary meaning. Mose alludes to the biblical character Moses in Italian, who is remembered for parting the Red Sea. In this section, we'll be shedding light on context and its impact on our understanding of the subject. Mose is part of a general plan of interventions to safeguard Venice and the lagoon. The project was begun in 1987 by the Ministry of Infrastructure through the Venice Water Authority, the ministry's operational arm in the lagoon, and the concessionary Consorzio Venezia Nuova. The measures already completed or underway along the coastline and in the lagoon are the most important environmental defense, restoration, and improvement program ever implemented by the Italian state. In parallel with the construction of Mose, the Venice Water Authority and Venice Local Authority are raising quaysides and paving in the city in order to protect built-up areas in the lagoon from medium-high tides below the height at which the mobile barriers will come into operation. These measures are extremely complex, particularly in urban settings such as Venice and Chioggia, where the raising must take account of the delicate architectural and monumental context. Measures to improve the shallow lagoon environment are aimed at slowing degradation of the morphological structures caused by subsidence, eustatism, and erosion due to waves and wash. Work is underway throughout the lagoon basin to protect, reconstruct, and renaturalize salt marshes, mud flats and shallows, restore the environment of the smaller islands, and dredge lagoon canals and channels. Important activities are also underway to redress pollution in the industrial area of Porto Magre, at the edge of the central lagoon. Islands formerly used as rubbish dumps are being secured while industrial canals are being consolidated and sealed after removal of their polluted sediments. The spotlight now falls on Baby Mose as we delve deeper into its details. Baby Mose is the flood defense system protecting Chioggia from the most frequently occurring high waters, up to a maximum of 130. Completed in the summer of 2012, it consists of 2 movable sluices located at the ends of the Vena Canal, the canal that crosses the center of Chioggia from north to south. These can be raised in a few minutes and protect the center of Chioggia from the most frequent high waters. The two sluices Vigo and Santa Maria are equal, 18 meters long, 3.3 wide and 80 thick. In case of threatening tides, they are raised in 8 minutes using hydraulic motors. Together with raising canal banks and the areas at the edge of the urban center, completed previously, the Mose is able to defend from tides up to 130 km. The Mose was completed in time to keep the center of Chioggia dry during the high water of October 2012. In the case of more extreme high waters, it is necessary to wait for the main Mose to come into operation, which blocks the entrance of the tide into the lagoon through the closure of the Mose barriers. The Mose, as well as the other interventions of protection and urban redevelopment implemented in Chioggia in recent years, was carried out by the Magistrate of the Waters of Venice, through the Consorzio Venezia Nuova, together with the municipal administration. With our foundation established, it's time to explore objectives and its relevance to our overarching theme. The aim of Mose is to protect the lagoon, its towns, villages, and inhabitants along with its iconic historic, artistic, and environmental heritage from floods, including extreme events. Although the tide in the lagoon basin is lower than in other areas of the world where it may reach as high as 20 m, the phenomenon may become significant when associated with atmospheric and meteorological factors such as low pressure and the Great Flood when a tide of 194 km submerged Venice, Chioggia and the other built-up areas. Floods effects are exacerbated due to greater erosion by the sea caused by human interventions to facilitate port activities, e.g. through the construction of jetties and artificial canals, establishment of the industrial Porto Marghera area, and increased wash from motorized boats, which all aggravate erosion of morphological structures and the foundations of quaysides and buildings. In the future, the high water phenomenon may be further aggravated by the predicted rise in sea level as a result of global warming. In this context, Mose, together with reinforcement of the barrier island, has been designed to provide protection from tides of up to. However, the reports have grown more pessimistic with time compared to when Mose was originally planned. The 2019 estimate from the IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change predicts a rise in sea level of between m m m m m m m m m m m m m m m m meters prior to 1936. The highest levels had been in 1879, when on 25 February the water reached 137.5 km, and on 21 November 1916, when a level of 136 km occurred. Since 1936, there have been 17 occasions when the level reached between 130 and 140 km. All values were recorded at the monitoring station at Punta della Salute, Punta della Dogana, and refer to the 1897 tidal datum point. The highest tide in over 5 decades on 13 November 2019 left 85% of the city flooded. Mayor Luigi Brugnaro blamed the situation on climate change. A Washington Post report provided a more thorough analysis. The sea level has been rising even more rapidly in Venice than in other parts of the world. At the same time, the city is sinking, the result of tectonic plates shifting below the Italian coast. Those factors together, along with the more frequent extreme weather events associated with climate change, contribute to floods. With the foundation laid, let's embark on a journey into operating principles. Mose consists of rows of mobile gates on the seabed at the 3 inlets that can be raised to temporarily seal off the lagoon from the sea during high tide. There are 78 gates grouped into 4 barrier rows. At the Lido inlet, the widest, there are 2 barrier rows of 21 and 20 gates, respectively, linked by an artificial island. The island connecting the 2 rows of gates at the center of the Lido inlet also accommodates the technical buildings housing the system operating plant. In addition, There is one row of 19 gates at the Malamocco inlet and one row of 18 gates at the Chioggia inlet. The gates consist of metal box-type structures 20 m wide for all rows, with a length varying between high. The authorities have established this as the optimum height with respect to current sea levels, but the gates can be operated for any level of tide. The Mose system is flexible, depending on the winds, atmospheric pressure and level of tide. It can oppose the high water in different ways with simultaneous closure of all three inlets in the case of exceptional tides, by closing just one inlet at a time, or by partially closing each inlet given that the gates are independent for medium-high tides. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of chronology and unravel its multifaceted nature. Following the flood of in November 1966, when Venice, Chioggia and the other built-up areas in the lagoon were submerged by a tide of 194 km, the first special law for Venice declared the problem of safeguarding the city to be of priority national interest. This marked the beginning of a long legislative and technical process to guarantee Venice and the lagoon an effective sea defense system. To this end, in 1975 the State Ministry of Public Works issued a competitive tender, but the process ended without a project being chosen from those presented, as no hypothesis for action satisfied all the mandated requirements. The ministry subsequently acquired documents presented during the call for tender and passed them to a group of experts commissioned to draw up a project to preserve the hydraulic balance of the lagoon and protect Venice from floods, the projection of 1981. A few years later, a further special law number emphasized the need for a unified approach to safeguarding measures, set up a committee for policy, coordination and control of these activities, the Comité Tone, chaired by the President of the Council of Ministers and consisting of representatives of the competent national and local authorities and institutions, and entrusted design and implementation to a single body, the Consorzio Venezia Nuova, recognizing its ability to manage the safeguarding activities as a whole. The Venice Water Authority Consorzio Venezia Nuova presented a complex system of interventions to safeguard Venice: the REA Requilibrio East Ambient Rebalancing and the Environment Project, which included mobile barriers at the inlets to regulate tides in the lagoon. In this context, between 1988 and 1992, experiments were carried out on a prototype gate modulo experimental elettromeccanico, hence the name MOSE, and in 1989, a conceptual design for the mobile barriers was drawn up. This was completed in 1992 and subsequently approved by the High Council of Public Works, then subjected to an environmental impact assessment procedure and further developed as requested by the Comité Tone. In 2002 the final design was presented, and on April 2003, the Comité Tone gave the go-ahead for its implementation. The same year, construction sites opened at the three lagoon inlets of Lido, Malamocco and Chioggia. In the following section, we'll be immersing ourselves in the captivating world of construction. Construction of MOSE was authorized by the Comité Tone on April 2003 and the associated construction sites opened the same year. Work began simultaneously and continues in parallel at the three inlets of Lido, Malamocco and Chioggia. Work on the structural parts, foundations, mobile barrier abutments, gate housing structures, associated structures, breakwaters, small craft harbors, locks and parts for operating the system, technical buildings, plant is now at an advanced stage. Currently about 4,000 people are employed in the construction of MOSE, as well as the construction sites at the inlets. Fabrication of the main components of MOSE, the hinges, the technological heart of the system which constrain the gates to their housing and allow them to move, and the gates is also proceeding. Restructuring of the buildings and spaces in the area of the Venice Arsenal where maintenance of MOSE and management of the system will be located is also underway. Welcome to the next segment, where we explore lagoon inlet construction sites and its significance in our journey. Construction of MOSE at the inlets necessitates complex logistical organization. These are located in a highly delicate environmental context so as to avoid interfering with the surrounding area as far as possible. The sites have been set up on temporary areas of water in order to limit occupation of the land adjacent to the inlets and reduce as far as possible the effect on activities taking place there. Materials, for example, site supplies and machines, are also moved via sea to avoid overloading the road system along the coast. Since the sites opened, all work has been carried out without interrupting transit through the inlet channels. Below is a description of the work underway and already completed at each inlet, listed in order from north to south. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of Lido Inlet in this section. There will be 2 rows of gates at the Lido Inlet, 21 mobile gates for the north barrier Lido Treporti and 20 mobile gates for the south barrier Lido San Nicol. To the north of the inlet Treporti, a small craft harbour consisting of 2 basins communicating through a lock will allow small craft and emergency vessels to shelter and transit when the gates are raised. The seaside basin was temporarily drained and sealed for use as the site to construct the gate housing structures for this barrier. Once the housing structures had been completed, the area was flooded with water to allow the housing structures to be floated out. The housing structures for the gates in the north barrier, 7 housing structures and 2 for the abutment connections, were positioned on the seabed. 4 of this barrier's gates were installed and maneuvered for the first time in October 2013. At the end of 2014, the installation of 21 gates was completed and operational for functional testing purposes, the so-called blanked tests. At the south of the inlet San Nicol, the launch and the positioning of 7 housing structures and 2 for the abutment connections has been completed. The structures have been fabricated on a temporary raised area in the Malamocco inlet and will be taken out to sea by a giant mobile platform which functions as a giant elevator. At the center of the inlet, a new island has been constructed to act as an intermediate structure between the 2 rows of mobile gates. This island will accommodate the buildings and plant for operating the gates construction underway. Outside the inlet, a 1,000 meters long curved breakwater is almost complete. As we enter this new phase, let's navigate the complexities of Malamocco Inlet and discover its practical applications. A temporary construction site has been set up alongside the basin to fabricate the gate housing structures to be positioned on the seabed Malamocco and Lido San Nicol barriers. 7 housing structures and 2 for the abutment connections for each barrier have been built. In April 2014, the lock for the transit of large ships becomes operative to avoid interference with port activities when the gates are in operation. Positioning of the gate housing structures for the Malamocco barrier was completed in October 2014. The seabed in the area where the 19 gates will be installed has been reinforced. Outside the inlet, a 1,300 meters long curved breakwater designed to attenuate tidal currents and define a basin of calm water to protect the lock has been completed. Let's now zoom in on Chioggia Inlet and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. Work has been completed to construct a small craft harbour with double lock to guarantee transit of a large number of fishing vessels when the gates are in operation. The seaside basin has been temporarily drained and sealed for use as a construction site to fabricate the gate housing structures. As for the Lido North Inlet barrier, positioning for the gate housing structures was completed in October 2014. In the inlet channel, the seabed in the area where the 18 gates will be installed has been reinforced. Outside the inlet, a 500 meters long curved breakwater has been completed. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at hinges. The hinges form the technological heart of the sea defense system. They constrain the gates to the housing structures, allow them to move and connect the gates to the operating plant. The steel gates consist of a male element 3m high and weighing convert fastened to the housing structure and an attachment assembly to connect the male and female elements. A total of 156 hinges, 2 for each gate, will be fabricated, together with a number of reserve elements. As we enter this new phase, let's uncover the impact of work progress on our broader topic. On 10 July 2020, the first full test of the system was successfully conducted. Amid fanfare, the Italian Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, activated the 78 mobile barriers. MOSE is expected to be fully functional by the end of 2025. It was used to actively combat threatened flooding on 3 October 2020. Now, let's delve into the intricacies of Venice Arsenal and explore its various aspects. Since 2011, the MOSE control center and management functions for the lagoon system have been located in the Venice Arsenal, symbol of the former trading and military might of the historic Serenissima or Serene Republic. Numerous historical buildings, in a state of decay and abandonment for decades, have already been restored, and reorganization of the area is underway to accommodate these new activities. Restoration has enabled a heritage of extraordinary historical and architectural value to be safeguarded and allowed buildings to be recovered and reutilized. As home to MOSE management and control, the Arsenal will receive a new lease of life after years of abandonment, allowing it renaissance as a place of innovation and production, with important economic repercussions for the city and local area. The historic Arsenal buildings before and after restoration and construction of infrastructure to accommodate the new functions are shown below. Filazonal prima esteno oct filazonal prima esteno oct filazonal prima interno oct filazonal dopo interno oct filazonal dopo interno oct filazonal dopo interno oct filazonal dopo arige filazonal dopo Malamocco. In the control center, key decisions will be taken on raising and lowering the mobile barriers according to measurements made by tide gauges positioned in front of the lagoon inlets to record the rising tide in real time. The command to raise the gate will be given when water reaches the level established by the procedure to begin the maneuver and guarantee that the water level in the lagoon does not exceed the requisite safe level. Brace yourself for a deep dive into specifications as we explore its impact and relevance in our evolving narrative. 4 mobile barriers are constructed at the lagoon inlets, 2 at the Lido inlet, 1 at Malamocco and 1 at Chioggia. The project has a total of 1.6 mobile barriers. Their MOSE is designed to cope with a convert rise in sea level. 30 minutes are required to raise the gates, 15 minutes are required to lower the gates back into their housing structures during a tidal event. The inlet remain closed for 4 to 5 hours. Including barrier raising and lowering times, the site currently employs 4,000 people directly or indirectly. With that being said, let's now move on to projections. The MOSE project is estimated to cost €5.50 billion, up €1.30 billion from initial cost projections. On 30 January 2019, the last of the 78 gates was put in place. In November 2019, the project was 94% completed and was expected to be ready by the end of 2021, and later moved to 2025. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the fascinating world of criticism, corruption, and court cases. The project has met resistance from environmental and conservation groups such as Italia Nostra and the Worldwide Fund for Nature, who have made negative comments about the project. Criticisms of the MOSE project, which environmentalists and certain political forces have opposed since its inception, relate to the costs to the Italian state of construction, management, and maintenance, which are said to be much higher than those for alternative systems employed by the Netherlands and England to resolve similar problems. In addition, according to the project's opponents, the monolithic integrated system is not gradual, experimental and reversible as required by the special law for the safeguarding of Venice. There have also been criticisms of the environmental impact of the barriers, not just at the inlets where complex leveling will be carried out. The seabed must be flat at the barrier installation sites and the lagoon bed reinforced to accommodate the gates, which will rest on thousands of concrete piles driven deep underground, but also on the hydrogeological balance and delicate ecosystem of the lagoon. The NOMOSE front also emphasizes what could be a number of critical points in the structure of the system and its inability to cope with predicted rises in sea level. Over the years, 9 appeals have been presented, 8 of which have been rejected by the TAR Tribunal Amministrativo Regional, meaning the Regional Administrative Tribunal and the Council of State. The 9th, currently under evaluation by the TAR, was presented by the Venice Local Authority and contests the favourable opinion of the Safeguard Venice Commission on the commencement of work at the Palestrine site in the Malamocco Inlet. Here, part of the Mose gate housing caissons will be made using processes which, according to the local authority, could damage a site of special natural interest. Environmental associations have also requested the intervention of the European Union (EU), as project activities affect sites protected by the Nature 2000 network and the European Directive on Birds. Following a report of March 2004 by the Venetian MP Luana Zanella, on December 2005 the European Commission opened an infraction procedure against Italy for pollution of the habitat of the lagoon. The European Environmental Commission Directorate General considers that as it has neither identified nor adopted in relation to the impacts on the area IBS 64 Venice Lagoon resulting from construction of the Mose project appropriate measures to prevent pollution and deterioration of the habitat, together with harmful disturbance of birds with significant consequences in the light of the objectives of Article 4 of EEC Directive. The Italian Republic has not fulfilled its obligations under Article 4, Paragraph 4, of EEC Directive of the Council of April 1979 on the conservation of wild birds. Although the European Environmental Commission has said that the initiative is not intended to stop Mose going ahead, the body has called on the Italian government to produce new information on the impact of the sites and the environmental mitigation structures. The Water Authority and Consorzio Venezia Nuova both confirm that the construction sites are temporary and will be completely restored at the end of the work. In 2014, 35 people, including Giorgio Orsini, the mayor of Venice, were arrested in Italy on corruption charges in connection with the Mose project. Orsini was accused of receiving illicit funds from the Consorzio Venezia Nuova, the consortium behind the construction of the project, which he then used in his campaign to be elected mayor. There were allegations that €20 million in public funds had been sent to foreign bank accounts and used to finance political parties. Following the legal proceedings occurred between 2013 and 2014 that involved part of the management bodies of the Consorzio Venezia Nuova and its companies, the state intervened in order to ensure the conclusion of the flood defense system. In December 2014, the ANSI National Anti-Corruption Authority proposed the extraordinary management of the Consorzio, which followed the appointment of 3 special chief executive officers. The special administration of the Consorzio pursued its task to guarantee the proper completion of Mose and to ensure the conclusion of the defense system on 2018. While Mose's supporters say it can handle the threat of rising waters from global warming, others have doubted the project can face this challenge. Luigi Zalpers, a professor emeritus of hydraulics, wrote that Mose is obsolete and philosophically wrong, conceptually wrong. For example, the problem is that while the gates could hypothetically deal with rising waters, they could only do so by raising the floodgates so often that they would function as a near-permanent wall. This, in turn, would devastate the lagoon's drainage and interchange with the Adriatic Sea. Venice's lagoon would become a stagnant pool for algae and waste if the gates were usually left up. I love interacting with my viewers, so leave me a comment and I'll do my best to respond.